two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and you know, they are really groovy, two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, talking about movies, two guys and a gal, they're talking about movies, and we know they are really groovy.
Hello, hello, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, and welcome to another live edition of Two Guys and a Gal talking about movies. I am your gal, and we'll bring up your guys in just a moment. Today, we're going to be talking about, you probably don't recognize him, but it's Francis Ford Coppola. You don't recognize his face, that's to say, because he's usually behind the scenes. He is one of the most famous film directors of all times, Academy Award recipient, yada, yada, yada. He's made some of the most epic, amazing movies like the Godfather movies. Anyways, the guys are going to get into it. But his father was a flautist. How incredible is that? So he comes from an Italian immigrant family and a father who was a composer and a flautist. And I like saying that word. So I'm going to say it 3 times. His father was a flautist. How amazing. All right. So now to get into his actual movies and dissect them, rank them, discuss them, we have Manny Zamora, who is a film fan, and Rory Penland, who is a movie buff. So one is a film fan and
A
one is a
popcorn
movie
fan.
buff. Right.
And a popcorn fan.
And a popcorn fan. There you go.
That's why I go to the movies. I love the popcorn.
That's the main attraction,
This is homemade. It's just not as good as the
Ah.
Hollywood popcorn. That is part of the ritual, though, of walking into the cinema and smelling that popcorn the minute you hit the door, and getting your popcorn and going with your soda and sitting down, and oh man, it's just, and then it phones in with the previews, and it's just that's the ritual that we hopefully will never ever get rid of.
Yeah, I hope that we continue to have the physical theaters and those communal places where we can bask in the glory of these things together, watch them together.
Now I say that way
Basking in
because
the glory.
we've lost the drive-in movie theaters, which again was another ritual altogether. Pack up the family, the kids in the pajamas, go to the movies with your whole car watches for one price, and yeah, you get to see really crazy movies usually, like B films. So it was a lot of fun. It was a family thing, and it was cheap. It wasn't that bad. Well,
Yeah.
taking the family to Disney, and having to take a loan on your house.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, it was nice, cheap entertainment. Yeah. I know there's some people who are trying to bring back the drive-ins, try to modernize them a little bit, digital screens and all that stuff. But it's still an expensive proposition, and I think that whole culture, that whole idea of driving to the, sitting in your car and watching a movie,
I know. Once we got multiplexes with 10 cinemas, 15 cinemas, that was it. It was the way of the dodo. And
exactly.
yeah, like you said, sometimes people will try to create a drive-in just out of nostalgia to give you, a chance to view it. But they usually they go under because there's just not enough interest anymore because, I'll just go to the air-conditioned movie theater with the DHX sound.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a time that it's past,
Yeah.
and we can say, hey, we did it when we were kids and it was fun, but now, yeah.
And a lot of people now, they're setting up their home theaters. I mean, look at the, TVs are ginormous now, or a lot of people have gone to actual projectors, which even give a bigger picture and a more cinematic experience. And they've got their big sound systems rigged up and all this stuff, and they'll have a few friends over. Hey, Pan.
And Wyatt Russell teases his dad about their cinema in their home. They have a cinema in their house because they all watch Kurt Russell movies.
Exactly. Yeah. Or just a nice big TV, big TV in your living room, sitting on your couch. You don't have to get dressed up.
Hey, we can watch it on Netflix.
Exactly. Yeah. Streaming has really, really cut into the whole, let's go to the movies, used to be back in our day. I think we're both old enough to remember when there was just 3 networks, and you'd wait on Saturdays or Sundays or Mondays for the movie of the week. When they finally released a theatrical movie onto TV, and you got to watch it at home. Uh, well, later on, of course, they would censor out all the naughty words and all that, but you still got
try
to
watching Smokey and the Bandit on TV.
Exactly. Yeah.
You scumbugger.
Yeah. And I do like the creative way they got around some of the especially if it was they had a lot of F-bombs or whatever, like it's how they either substitute, they either had to redo the dialogue, or we're talking about Francis Ford Coppola today, Pan.
We'll get around to it.
Yeah. But before we get into that, there's something I've been wanting to say since the beginning of the month, and that is I want to wish all our friends and viewers in the LGBTQ community a happy Pride Month. We see you, we recognize you, we acknowledge you, and thank you for being a fan of the show.
Indeed.
Whoever you might be out there. So there you go. But getting back to Coppola rather.
Coppola. We had this discussion before the show.
Yeah. You say Coppola, I say Coppola.
Coppola.
Let's call the whole thing. No, let's not call the whole thing.
That picture that Renee showed, she was like, you probably don't recognize him. Like, oh my God. He looks like he's in Planet of the Apes makeup.
I know.
Oh, he did not age well.
He did not age well.
Anything like his former self. That's scary.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I think a lot of it too is we're so used to seeing him with the full beard, kind of like this.
Yeah.
Even as a young man, he had the big bushy beard, and as he got older, there you go. That's how we're used to seeing him.
Mm-hmm.
Big robust guy.
Yeah, all these great pictures of him, and you chose the Monkey Man shot.
It's because he's in his 80s, and this is who he is now, and he's wearing a nice lapel pin there of Ukraine, but this is who when you're 86 years old, let's see how we look, right? He looks. Right. I think he looks pretty good, but this is who he is. This
there
is
you go. There
is
you
he
go.
long in the tooth? Rory has an issue with long in the tooth. He attacked. Who was it? Who was the Ronnie?
Sandal Bergman.
Yeah. When she was in Hell Comes to Frogtown. Sorry.
The oldest 30-year-old is
man. My karma is going to catch up to me. It will. I mean, I'm already starting to feel more like 60 now. And a couple of years I'm going to look like that. I'm going to look like Monkey Man.
Yeah, well,
no matter how nice I dress up.
That's why I'm not shaving this off. I know I'm probably have 12 chins under here by now, but and it's funny because you cracked wise last week, Mr. Penland, about when I announced that it was going to be Coppola. Said, "Oh well, we're not going to have any honorable mentions because he only made 5 movies." And of course, he's obviously made more than that. But
no, he's made more than that, and I got honorable mentions.
So
there were a couple movies that I really was surprised. I was like, "Oh man, did he direct that?" It was like one of those things this week when I was looking up movies.
Yeah.
I was really surprised. I forgot about Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Really?
Yeah. I did. I forgot about Peggy Sue Got Married. So I forgot about Tucker, The Man in His Dream. So, I was surprised myself. I was really shocked.
Yeah.
He's had a very interesting range of movies. Starting out with The Godfathers and Apocalypse Now, and then ending up later, with Jack, and Robin Williams. I mean, it's a very wide range of different styles of movies.
Yeah, I'd say his heyday was really the 70s and 80s when he was a younger man and a little more, hungry for that But he's always been a maverick. He's always been very creative. He started his own he wanted to have his own studio, which is how American Zoetrope came out.
Yeah, Zoetrope.
But
Yeah.
he's really better known in the industry as a producer than a director. If you look at his IMDb listing, he's got a lot of producing credits.
Right.
That he's for some of he helped George Lucas get his start. He helped with his turning his student film into a movie, THX 1138, and then American Graffiti. He produced that, and
Yeah.
Spielberg and a lot of people owe him a debt of gratitude, just like he owed Roger Corman, who helped him get his start with a little horror movie, Dementia 13.
Dementia 13.
That he made for Corman. The late Roger Corman, we should say now. He's no longer with us.
Passed.
He just passed not too long ago, but he helped launch a lot of careers of people who are now major directors and writers.
He's like the Stan Lee of horror films.
Yes, very good. Yeah, exactly. He's the Stan Lee of horror films. Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we get into the listing? And Rory, why don't you go first this week? What's your number one?
I went first last week.
Oh, did you? Okay. Well,
I know that our first pick is going to be the same damn thing. So,
well, we'll see about that. My number one is Apocalypse Now.
Wow, that is a surprise.
Yeah. This is his epic war movie, based on the Joseph Conrad novel Heart of Darkness. And speaking of which, if you're interested, if anyone's interested in a really excellent behind-the-scenes documentary on the making of, you got to check out Hearts of Darkness, which is the making of this movie, and it is superb. I don't know where it's streaming, if it's available on streaming. Look for it. Rent it if you have to.
It is my all-time favorite documentary on what can go wrong when you make a movie. And the only reason it's not number one on my freaking list here is because it was by his wife. Was it Gail Hurd?
Yeah.
Gail Hurd?
I think so.
Yeah. Who went on to be a producer in movies as well. It was her movie more than his. So it is an absolute awesome thrill ride of a documentary.
Yeah.
And it just documents everything that goes wrong when they were making the movie, the insanity. Oh my God, what a great movie. It's almost better than the movie.
Yeah, almost, yeah.
Because you see him devolve into madness.
Oh yeah. He almost died making this movie. I mean, he really did.
Yeah.
So did Martin Sheen.
Well, and so did Martin Sheen. Yeah, he had a heart attack.
Had a heart attack.
And that was after he replaced
Harvey Keitel.
Harvey Keitel
was the original. Yeah. Was the original choice to play Willard. But the history of this movie goes back to the 50s. Orson Welles had been tapped to direct a version of Heart of Darkness and actually adapt the book in its original setting and so forth, which is like the Belgian Congo, whatever. But then that fell through, and then years later, people kind of went back to it and said, "Hey, whoever still owned the rights to that said, let's actually make this movie." And Coppola came along and said, "Yeah, I'll direct this movie." And it was supposed to be just this little low budget, a quick shoot in the jungle in I think Thailand or whatever. And
it was actually in the Philippines,
in the Philippines. And like you said, everything it was Murphy's Law writ
anything large. That could have gone wrong did.
Exactly, except
right down to a monsoon hitting.
Destroying the sets. They had to be rebuilt. They had trouble with the Philippine Army because they were lending them a lot of the equipment and the helicopters and all that stuff. They were extorting money from the production, and just everything. So it's
Yeah.
amazing that this movie even got made. But it did. There were many points where the studio was ready to pull the plug, but they said, fine, well, we're too far into it. Let's just let him, and then we'll, you know. But
We'll cut our
we
losses.
cut our losses. Yeah, but it came out, and it's a terrific movie. I remember going to see it at the theater, being a little perplexed, but I grew up in that era, and I know you did too, Rory. We grew up in that time during when Vietnam was still going on. At least, well, I'm a little older than you are,
Yeah.
but I remember the news reports. I remember all that happening,
Yeah.
and of course the fall of Saigon and the end of the war and all of that. So when Apocalypse Now came out, and there were other movies about Vietnam before that, obviously. Uh, Starting with the Green Berets and all that. But Apocalypse Now, of course, the book has nothing to do with Vietnam, but putting
Right.
it into
A lot
that.
of war movies are propaganda.
Yeah,
And this was definitely not propaganda.
no, it really there's and normally I hate when there's narration in a movie because I feel it's intrusive.
Yeah.
And it like, why are you like on Big Monster Briefing Room, we talked about this Godzilla movie, or they talked
Godzilla
about
raids
it.
again.
Godzilla Raids Again had the American version had this continuous narration that was telling us exactly what was going on the screen.
Like
But
we wouldn't be able to figure it out. Yeah.
like we wouldn't exactly. But the narration in this
And we
movie,
looked up and we saw giant monsters from way
yeah,
back in dinosaur times living today and fighting.
yes, just like that. But the
Terrible.
narration in this movie, first of all, was written by a vet who went on to write books about the war. So we had an authenticity to it, and it advanced the plot without being intrusive. Uh,
Yeah.
so I'm okay with that. I'm like, okay,
Never get out of the boat.
yeah, never get out of the boat. Yeah, and there's a great line where Willard says, handing out murder charges here is like handing out speeding tickets at the Indianapolis 500. It just doesn't make sense. And there's a scene where they wind up killing a bunch of people on this little sampan, this boat, and he says, "Yeah, we shoot them with bullets and we give them band-aids, and all this stuff." It's just really heartbreaking stuff.
Puppy.
It was a puppy. Yeah, I mean it's a tremendous movie, and I know Coppola has made probably better movies, but this one just really it. I just can't get it out of my mind. It really
The
when
scope
I think
of it is
the scope
huge.
is enormous, incredible cast,
Yeah.
even down to Marlon Brando. And I know he gets a lot of shit about it because he came in, he was overweight, and he ad libbed a lot of his lines. He didn't want to learn his lines.
My own dialogue.
Yeah, but some of what he says is actually Now that line's actually out of the book, but when he talks about the Viet Cong soldiers coming in and or the American soldiers having inoculated all the children, and then the Viet Cong come in and they amputate all the inoculated arms and all this stuff. And the strength to do that, he admired that, because it's like, this is war. This is not playing around. This is not, and even though it's a brutal thing, and of course my favorite line is when he's asking Willard if he's a soldier, and Willard says, well, or no, he asked him if he's an assassin. Willard says, no, I'm a soldier. And he says, no, you're neither. You're a delivery boy sent by grocery clerks to collect the bill. I'm like, oh man, that's a great burn. And of course his death scene. And now there's a bit of controversy. There's a scene right up to that where they butcher this oxen, and it's not a prop. They actually butchered an oxen. And of course, animal rights people were just up in arms about it, and they
Yeah,
really gave.
it's very graphic.
It's
Um,
very graphic. It's probably
but
the most graphic scene in the whole movie. I mean,
yeah,
you got all these people getting killed, but that scene, but because it's real people, I mean, a real animal getting chopped up, and it's
yeah.
brutal, but it fits so well into the whole context of the movie, and uh, a story about
And
sacrifice,
something
and
something would happen to any McDonald's slaughterhouse. You know,
exactly. It's not
you
like,
know.
come on,
I
people.
mean, that's what happened. You know, then
Yeah,
and there.
yeah.
Um,
So,
I
but
had
yeah.
just read a story that was not in the documentary about
Hmm.
how Dennis Hopper was looking forward to working with Brando,
Yeah.
and Brando totally said, "Look, keep him away from me. I don't want to. I don't want to see him. I don't want to." He had some kind of personal problem with Dennis Hopper,
Wow.
and Hopper was felt really slighted, and didn't bring that up in interviews until like late, like right before he passed away.
Yeah.
Um, and I think Brando had already passed away, so he was able to, do it without
Finally,
repercussion.
yeah.
But yeah, that wasn't in the documentary. They must have cut that part out or left it out on purpose. Um,
Yeah.
but they did
Or
they
maybe
did
it
say
didn't
Hopper
happen before.
was
Yeah.
stoned most of the time. So
Yeah. I can definitely tell. Yeah.
so
But it fit
again,
his
it is an
character.
amazing film. It's the scope of it is just massive. It's awesome. It's my number 2 on my list.
Okay.
So
Well, I just want to mention the cast real quick. I mean, we got Martin Sheen, of course, Brando. You mentioned Dennis Hopper. Robert Duvall has a wonderful character as Captain Kilgore, the
Kilgore.
crazy.
I love the
Yeah.
smell of napalm in the morning. It smells like victory.
Yeah, Sam Bottoms, and a very, very young Lawrence Fishburne.
Lawrence
One of
Fishburne.
his, he really was like 17 or 18 when he made
Yes.
this movie, just like his character.
No.
So just tremendous, tremendous cast of characters, and I love,
And
and there's
um
in the spoof in Hot Shots Part
Sam.
2,
No.
there's a great scene where
Who plays the gunner? Or not the gunner? Who plays the guy? The puppy. He goes into the jungle and he meets the tiger.
Frederick Forrest.
Freddie Forrest. Freddie
Frederick
Forrest. There.
Forrest, who is in a lot of Coppola's movies, and so is Duvall.
Man, oh man.
But Frederick, I was making a joke, kind of to myself, that that you can tell the age of the movie by how either young or old Frederick Forrest is. So, but anyway, yeah. So that's my number 1.
All right. That's my number 2, so we don't have to talk about it in one of my next thing. My number 1 is Godfather 1 and 2. And I have to put them together as a tie because they're both really, really fantastic films, both of them. And Coppola is a storyteller. He really knows how to tell a story. And I think it was Monty Python, Terry Gilliam, who said, directors just don't tell stories anymore. It's just all about, the CGI and the effects. And, he goes, they just don't tell stories anymore. So, God, when you think of the cast in these movies and what the stories that they told there about the Corleone family, and Val is their lawyer, who's like a part of the family, and you got Abe Vigoda there. Look at him. It's just tell him it was just business. I didn't mean anything by it. Just my God. And again, they caught the flavor of the first two with the third one, but it's just not in the same level. It's just not in the same ballpark as the first two.
No.
I don't know well, again, Sofia Coppola's performance hurt it a lot for me. She's a much better director than she is an actress.
I was just,
and I felt Andy Garcia didn't fit either for some reason. I don't know why, but he didn't fit in that to me.
Yeah.
I've seen him in a lot of stuff. He's wonderful. He's great. He's fantastic in The Untouchables. But for some reason, he just didn't seem to fit here in that one, in The Godfather 3. So it didn't even make my list.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
but Godfather 1 and 2, just, oh my God, so awesome. So many memorable lines and scenes. Uh, Brando, never better
Mm,
than as the father, Don Corleone. And
yeah. Yeah.
James Caan. Hey, Bob, why you want to work with the school guys? Huh? Okay.
Sunny. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
stop to drop the change. Oh, and Al Pacino, a young Al Pacino. Something's wrong here. That's another movie. I'm sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
but you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so that's my number two.
Well, there you
So
go.
we kind of had ours reversed there, but yeah,
Yeah,
Godfather 1 and 2. I consider it all one movie, really, because it kind
yeah,
of is.
it is.
Um, and I mean, talk about a who's who of great Italian actors, Italian American actors and actresses, and other actors. Robert Duvall, like you mentioned, James Caan,
Mm-hmm.
Pagoda, of course, Diane Keaton, Talia Shire's in it.
Talia Shire. I forgot to
Yeah,
mention her.
and
Yeah.
and yeah, and of course Brando and Pacino and Robert De Niro as the young Corleone, Don
Young Don
Corleone.
Corleone. Yeah.
Yeah, uh, another great performance from him. John Cassell, who's also another favorite of Coppola. He's been in some other movies of his. Uh, as I said, as is Robert Duvall.
I always forget the actor who plays Fredo.
That's John Cassell.
Casal. Casal. That's right.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I
He's
think
in a
I think
couple
he,
of Pacino movies. He's in Dog
yeah,
Day Afternoon.
Dog Day Afternoon. Yeah. Yeah. Never go against the family. Uh, yeah. Just great lines. Yeah. Leave the gun. Take the cannoli. Um.
Yeah, in part
Yeah.
three, they added Eli Wallach. Uh,
Hmm.
that's notable. I mean, he's good, but
Oh yeah. Yeah.
again, still for some reason, just not on
Just
the same
never.
level.
Yeah. I think it was just way. The time for it had passed. I think to revisit
Maybe,
that story.
maybe it's
I
very
think that's the
possible.
problem. That the society, we'd kind of moved on from that.
Well, and again, how do you follow up those two movies? That
Exactly.
story.
Exactly.
You can't match it. There's just no way.
Oh, it's
Um,
just
and he tried. He
he
tried.
tried.
And the
Yeah.
studio, they did their deal with the studio, but yeah.
Yeah. It's too epic. Too epic. All right. All right.
All right,
So
number three.
number three. What's your number three?
You're gonna make me go first again.
Yes, I am.
The Conversation. Gene Hackman.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. Um. Again, when you think you've gotten a certain kind of movie from Coppola, he kind of changes on you. He goes with a story. He'll find a good story and he'll tell it
Hmm. Yeah.
basically. And so you got this interesting tale with Gene Hackman listening in on other people's conversations, and yeah, very very well told story, an interesting movie.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, conversation. It nearly made it. It's in my honorable mentions.
Okay.
But it is. Oh wait, or is it? No, it is.
No.
Um, it nearly made my top five. A couple other movies kind of bumped it, but yeah,
Hmm.
it's a wonderful movie. It probably might be a little too slow for modern audiences
Hmm.
because there's not a lot of action in it. But I love the growing sense of, but it's still very relevant. And the growing sense of paranoia
Yeah.
The fact that this guy, his profession is, as you said, listening in on other people, spying on other people. He's a security specialist or something, a surveillance specialist, and and just the fact that Cindy Williams is in this movie, who of course is better known for Laverne and Shirley,
Laverne and Shirley.
but as I was saying, you have a very very young Frederick Forrest in the movie,
Yeah.
and the movie really centers around their conversation. He becomes obsessed with learning, what exactly these two are up to, because that's how the movie starts. It's with them following these two people, and trying to listen in on their conversation and how they do it, and all the different microphones and techniques they're using to try to figure out what they're up to. And because that's the job. But
Big
then,
Brother's watching.
but Big Brother's watching, yeah, and there's a great role from a young Harrison Ford in the movie as well.
He's
And
in again, like you
you don't
said,
know.
the whole George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, Steven Spielberg dynamic.
Hmm.
Yeah, Ford is in American
American
Graffiti
Graffiti, yeah,
with the Texan. He's in
he's in Apocalypse
Apocalypse
Now,
Now in the very
yeah,
beginning
yeah,
as the nervous kind of was a corporal.
I think so. I think, yeah,
And yeah, he's all through this stuff. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And you're not
and
quite
Cindy
sure if
Williams.
he's, and Cindy Williams, yeah, and you're not quite sure if he's a good guy, is he a bad guy? There's so many layers going
Could
on.
she have been Princess Leia?
Well, she did audition.
Yeah,
Um, I it would have been a very different movie if the original, if the
yeah.
people that they wanted Kurt Russell as for Han Solo, Cindy Williams
Oh wow.
auditioned uh for Princess Leia, like you said. Ford was just there to and they said, I think actually you would be a good Han Solo. It's like, what, me? Nah, nah. He never wanted to, any of the roles that he was actually famous for wasn't really going to be his. Indiana Jones was supposed to be Tom Selleck,
Yeah.
but instead, Ford got it just because he happened to be there. Audition. Same thing with Han Solo. He was just there to provide feedback, to have somebody
Uh-huh.
to talk to. But he had such good chemistry with Carrie Fisher,
Yeah.
that said,
Yeah, they
those
ended up
two,
having an affair.
and they wind up having an affair. Yeah. So yeah, talk about chemistry. But anyway, yeah. So
Yeah,
that's a good
they
choice.
had an
And
affair.
conversation's a great. It is a great movie.
I love the SNL sketches where they do the bogus auditions for movies. They did the Star Wars one.
Yeah. I
Richard
love it.
Dreyfuss.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm doing here. You want me to
Yeah.
play a robot? A robot?
Yeah. I love the one with Alan Alda, playing Alan
Oh,
Alda.
gee. Oh, this is great. Oh, you guys are great.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
Uh,
great. That's wonderful.
yeah.
Yeah, they do the Back to the Future with him as and it's Hader doing his spot on impression of Alan Alda.
Hmm.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
Oh wow,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, so number 4, or no, you're
Wait,
number 3.
so my number 3 is Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay,
Uh, I, you know, this
I'll
is
tell you why it didn't make my top 5 list is
okay.
because Keanu Reeves. He didn't belong there. Whoa, it's like Dracula.
I know we pretty much covered that when we
we've
talked
talked
about it.
about this before somewhere.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It might have been the Keanu Reeves show, but
When we did
uh,
when we did Keanu Reeves talk about his
whoa,
career.
Dracula just bit that babe. Uh, I'm
Well,
sorry, I just keep seeing Ted and Bill and Ted.
I
Um,
know, I know.
I mean, he has shed that in days past, but in that movie, he still reminds me of Bill and Ted. It's the same problem that I had with
Well,
Dangerous Liaisons.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but
Well, I
I
think the
also didn't like the way that Anthony Hopkins played Van Helsing with the comedy, cut the head off. No, I didn't like that.
yeah.
So I thought Gary Oldman was wonderful as Dracula and all of his different incarnations in the film. I thought Winona Ryder was a kind of a weird choice for the lead, but she was okay. But yeah, it was Keanu Reeves that really threw me off, and there was a cowboy in it too somewhere, and I just like, what the hell? Where did he throw a cowboy
Well,
in?
let me. No, 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 no. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something, young man. Uh, this is probably one of the most faithful adaptations of Dracula that's ever been made. There's a couple others that are actually pretty faithful as well. One that Christopher Lee did in Germany, of all places.
Mhm.
But um, the cowboy character, Quincy Morris, is in the book. In
Mhm.
fact, all the male characters that are in the movie are straight out of the book,
Hey
and
Bob.
playing. Hey, uh, and so that's why there's a cowboy in the movie. He's actually
And he's a cowboy in the book. I don't remember
and he's a
that, but I
cowboy in the book.
remember.
He's from Texas. They
Okay, all right.
and he's got now. I I really I the one reason that I picked this movie, one, I'm a big Dracula fan anyway, and
Yeah,
two, the faithfulness to that. But it's Gary Oldman's performance as Dracula. That's
yeah.
what nails it for me every single
He's
time.
he's
Yes,
stellar. He
I
is.
know Reeves. It's mainly his accent. He just didn't nail the English accent the way Winona Ryder did. So that kind of is takes you out of the movie a little bit, but it's just Ullman's performance as Dracula. I
Mhm.
didn't mind Anthony Hopkins Van Helsing. I thought that was fine. Um,
I don't think that character should be played for comedy. I'm sorry, I just don't. That was kind of offsetting for me.
yeah, and I I thought, and you had a little cameo from Tom Waits as Renfield, which I thought was an interesting choice. And again, Waits has been in other Coppola movies as well. I mean, he
Hmm.
does recycle a lot of the same actors, like a lot of directors do. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
unique to him. A lot of people will get the same people, sort of, because they're known quality. Okay, I know I've worked with you before, so I know how
yeah.
I can deal with you. So that sort of thing. And the thing that I like most about this movie, besides Oldman, is just the atmosphere. The way Coppola captures this feeling of just dread. More he's really good at that, and how he very deliberately used kind of old school visual effects and techniques, using sets and the miniatures and just really old fashioned filmmaking. Uh, like they would have done it in 30s. So I
Hmm.
really love that. So that's my reasons. That's a lot of my reasons why this movie's on the top five. Uh,
Okay.
uh, and I understand your objections. I really do, but it's just really comes down to just personal favorite.
Yeah.
I really like this movie. Yeah, Keanu kind of throws you out of it because of his terrible British accent or lack thereof. Uh, well, I gotta say it's not as bad as Kevin. Uh, Robin Hood. Uh,
Oh,
when he
Kevin
did
Costner, Robin Hood.
when
Oh yeah, that was
Cos
horrible.
at least at least Reeves attempted one. Costner just pretty much threw it out the window and just used his own accent. And I'm like, everybody else, even Mary Elizabeth Mastrantonio, which is why Carrie Elways kind of stuck a needle in it when he said, "Well, at least unlike some Robin Hoods, I speak with a real English accent. In Men in Tights, I mean, that was a direct throw at Costner, which is interesting because Elwes was in Dracula as well,
Yeah,
as Arthur Homewood. Um, and I got to say, it is a good cast. It is a great cast. Richard Grant,
yeah.
Cary Elwes, William Campbell as the cowboy, as you mentioned, who was in The Rocketeer, another movie that Coppola produced, by the way. Uh, so
Rocketeer's
so
so
it's a,
good.
so it's a great cast. Uh, besides, yes, besides Keanu, who was terribly miscast. It's like they could have found an actual English actor, a young
Okay.
English actor to play that part. But
It
anyway,
made my honorable mention list. It did.
oh, okay.
Again,
Well,
like you said, there's a lot of good in it, and it made my honorable mention list.
yeah, okay. All right. So
All right.
what's number 4?
The Outsiders.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Great cast. Kind of a strange coming of age movie.
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, that picture has what? C. Thomas Howell, and who's on the right there?
That is, I believe that's Rob Lowe.
Is that Rob Lowe? Really? Wow.
Yeah, they played brother.
Yeah, this
They
was
were
kind
brothers.
of a cross between gang film and the Brat Pack. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
headed by Coppola. So, um, very interesting movie, very entertaining. Again, a lot of great talent, and a lot of great atmosphere and mood. Like you said,
hmm
he knows what to do with mood and atmosphere to get you into the story. And again,
yeah,
he's a storyteller.
yeah,
So yeah, that's definitely number 4 on my list. It's a really good character driven piece.
yeah, yeah. It's number 5 on mine,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's, and that's the one that bumped the conversation out as
Mm,
for the top 5. So it was a
yeah.
very close call on that one. But The Outsiders, it's like you said, it's such an excellent movie, and I'll talk a little bit more about it when we get to number 5. My number 4 is actually Tucker, the Man in His Dream.
That was number 5 on my list, and it got bumped.
Okay, well, see, there you
It got
go.
bumped to the top of the honorable mention list. Um, it is a very good movie, a very good performance by Jeff Bridges,
Yeah,
playing very different from anything he's played before.
yeah.
He's a real
Um,
guy in this.
yeah, yeah. This is the true story of a man named Preston Tucker. And I
Mhm.
gotta tell you, you were talking about some of the movies that you didn't realize that Coppola had directed. For a
Yeah.
long time, I thought this was a Spielberg movie. Uh,
Really?
yeah, yeah. Because I don't know, it just has that feel to it. But then I was like, no. Of course, then
It
I found
does have
yeah,
kind of that Spielberg Lucas kind of feel to it.
exactly. Yeah.
I forgot it was Coppola, but the only thing I remember was at the end of the film it said that the director had one of these cars, or maybe
Mhm.
more than one.
Well, actually, no. It says that there of the 50 that were actually built of the Tucker
Mm,
vehicles, 47 or 48 are
mm.
still in existence.
Yeah,
And a lot of the cars that you see in the movie are real Tuckers. They didn't recreate them. They
right.
contact Coppola and his production team contacted. There's a club, uh,
Yeah,
and they said, "Hey, we're making this movie about the guy who built the car. We'd love to see him." And then they showed up, and that's all. And a lot of the people who owned the cars drove them in the movie. So anyway, well, for people who don't know, this is a movie about a man named Preston Tucker, who in the 1940s decided that he was going to start his own motor company, his own automobile company. Uh, got some financing, got some help from the government, and then he got screwed like big time by the big automotive factory manufacturers
mm,
through their person in Congress who was in their pocket. So if you're anti big corporations, this is the movie for you, because it
Yeah.
really shows you the kind of how the true innovators wind up getting crushed if they're not careful. But I think this movie was very close to Coppola's heart, because I think he saw himself in Tucker. Going up against the big movie studios, trying to be independent, try to do things his own way,
Hmm.
you know, uh, and sometimes failing and sometimes succeeding. Tucker did achieve his dream of building these cars, but at the end, you know, and and I don't know how much of this is true, but in the end, it says, you know, making a million cars wasn't the point. It was fulfilling. It was fulfilling the dream of even making one. And he accomplished that. And I mean, he went on to do. I mean, unfortunately, the real Preston Tucker passed away just a few years after all this happened, so he didn't get to achieve some of the other things that he wanted to do. Uh, but he was a designer. He wasn't just a dreamer. I mean, he was also a creator, a very creative force. And the movie has again a wonderful cast. Besides Jeff Bridges, we have Joan Allen, who is also in a lot of other Coppola movies and has been in a lot of movies herself. Very underrated actress.
Hmm.
Again, Frederick Forrest. Uh, Elias Codius, a young Christian Slater, is in this movie
Yeah.
as Preston, as Tucker's son, and Martin Landau, who again, another wonderful performance from him. And he has a wonderful line towards when he realizes the writing's on the wall and the company's going to go under. He tells Tucker, he says, when I was a kid, my mother told me to keep away from people because you might catch their dreams. It wasn't until years later that I realized, she said, you'll catch their germs. But that's the problem here. I caught your dreams. Oh, it's a great line. But yeah, it's a wonderful movie, beautifully shot. Uh, one of Coppola's go-to
Now, this was the
cinematographers.
movie that actually kind of put him back on the map, is it not?
Yeah,
Landau,
yeah,
because he
yes.
he, he was starting to get other roles. He might have even gotten an Academy Award nod for that, didn't he? Like a
Uh,
like a nomination.
I don't know. I
Um,
don't know.
because he ended up, yeah, doing Bela Lugosi in Ed Wood shortly
Yeah,
thereafter,
later
and
on.
doing some
Yeah,
stuff with Tim Burton.
yeah. Well,
And
this one came out in, I believe, '88. Uh, yeah, yeah. Coppola had a rough period during the '80s. A lot of his movie, in fact, this movie bombed when it first came out. As a matter of fact,
yeah,
a lot of his movies in the '80s were actually very good movies. Just were not
but he didn't connect.
successful. They
Yeah, he
just
didn't
didn't
connect with his
connect for some
audience.
reason. I think they were expecting another Godfather or another Apocalypse Now from him, and he was doing all these other movies. One from the Heart, and all these movies that just weren't. But there's, like
Gardens
I
of
said,
Stone.
Guards of Stone, things like that. Yeah. So, but anyway, this is. Uh, I think it's a wonderful movie. I think, and just visually, and like I said, we've said before, Coppola, great storyteller, and he tells the story. Uh, and even though the real Tucker and even the guy in the movie Tucker didn't ultimately achieve their goal, they did fulfill their dreams, and that's what the movie's about. It's about being optimistic. It's about going, fighting the odds no matter what, and really going for your dreams. And I think it's a very positive message, and it really resonated with me at the time when I first saw the movie back in the '80s, and even recently when I saw it again for the show. So, and that's why it's my number 4.
Okay.
And we talked about The Outsiders, and that was my number 5. Um, what a terrific cast! All these young,
Yeah.
soon-to-be giant stars: Patrick Swayze, Tom Cruise, C. Thomas Howell, you know,
See,
Rob
Thomas Howell
Lowe.
now is a farmer. He married a Southern wife,
Hmm.
and he's a farmer now, and he's full Southern now.
Yeah, yeah,
He's a cowboy.
yeah. I think honestly, the last movie that I remember Howell in was a bit role in one of the Spider-Man movies. Uh, I was it one of the Tobey Maguire movies? I think it was in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies.
He
Was the
looks very
last.
different than when he was young.
Yeah, 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 yeah. He kind of left Hollywood and left left acting behind, unlike some of the others. Oh, and I gotta say, Matt Dillon.
Yeah,
Like Prince said, he was a
he's
sexy
really a
motherfucker.
good actor. He really
Yeah,
is. I
yes,
mean,
yeah,
to see him do something like this, and then a few years later, see him do something about Mary, yeah,
yeah,
and his
yeah,
character in that.
yeah. And like I said, who knew he could do comedy? But he did.
Yeah,
He was great in
yeah,
that. But yeah, these
he's
serious
definitely
roles.
he's definitely I won't say an unsung hero, but he's definitely an actor that deserves a nod, for
Yeah,
his performances, and he doesn't
yeah.
get it a lot.
No, he doesn't.
You
No, he
know,
doesn't get the
he
accolades that he should. Yeah.
yeah,
And like I said, a lot of the actors in this movie went on to really. I mean, Tom Cruise, huge name. Patrick
yeah.
Swayze, of course, thanks to Dirty Dancing and a lot of his roles.
Hmm.
Uh, and and of course, there was of course, a young Diane Lane is in this movie. Uh, Tom Waits has a bit role. Leif Garrett is one of the Soch. In fact, He's the guy the ones that were getting killed shit. Uh, Ralph Macchio by his character.
Machia, another
He's
one
the
who
guy.
went on
Ralph
to
Macchio, exactly. He went up to
Karate
with
Kid
Karate
fame and
Kid, exactly. Yeah,
dozens
and
of other movies
who's kind of come back with the Netflix
with
series
Cobra Kai.
with
Yeah,
Cobra Kai. Yeah, a lot of the original actors came back for that. So yeah, it's awesome to see all these kids that we know now are huge stars as
hmm
as such, so young, and of course Emilio Estevez and a lot of them, that went on to big
never have been a
careers.
big Emilio Estevez fan. Just too cocky for his own good. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
all of his characters seem to be the same to me.
yeah. Well, I just watched. I watched. Heart of like I said, Hearts of Darkness, great documentary. But I just
Yeah.
watched one on Hulu called Brats, made by Andrew McCarthy, about the
Oh,
Brat
the
Pack.
Brat Pack documentary.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
went
I've seen
and
ads for that.
oh, you have to watch it. It's really good. He goes back
Who is the
and
Brat Pack?
well, that was kind of it's funny that you asked that because that's kind of the point of the documentary is it's just a
Yeah,
name that was given to all these young actors like Estevez and
yeah,
Ali Sheedy and Molly Ringwald and you know I don't know if Downey Jr. was actually considered one of the Brat Packers,
yeah,
but
yeah. He was.
Demi Moore and this whole host of actors in their 20s who kind of took over Hollywood in the 1980s and beyond,
Yeah, kids
and
doing John Hughes movies and
yeah,
such.
yeah, they were all kind of lumped together because of this one
Judd
article.
Nelson,
Judd Nelson,
Molly
yeah,
Ringwald.
yeah, and so McCarthy goes back and he calls all these people, and a few of them they actually agreed to be interviewed about him and about that period and how they felt about it, and he also contacts some other people, writers and even interviews the New Yorker reporter who coined the phrase Brat Pack. And well, his whole
They
motivation
didn't
is
like
why.
being called the Brat Pack. I'm
No, no.
guessing.
Well, yeah.
Like, why would
And
you call us that?
yeah, it's an excellent documentary by the people, by the one, the and I'm glad that McCarthy's the one who did it because he was there at the time,
Right. He was one of the
and he
people
was
that was monikered with that,
with that
saddled with that
with that
moniker, I
title.
should say.
Yeah, yeah, and so yeah, I highly recommend it. So please go and watch that on Hulu. Um, okay, so what was
Hulu.
your number five? Did you mention your number five?
Originally it was Tucker, the Man in His Dream, but I had to give it to Peggy Sue Got Married,
Oh, okay,
just
okay.
because it's an enjoyable comedy. Um, Kathleen Turner, um, Nicolas Cage in one of his funniest roles, I think. He just plays an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, one of his friends is very young Jim Carrey
Yeah,
with a crew cut. Ah,
yeah. You see it on the picture there. Yeah.
yeah. And it's Peggy Sue bumps her head, and I actually haven't seen this movie in years, but I just remember how funny it was when I saw
Mm-hmm.
it. And she kind of goes back in time to her, when she met her husband, who's played by Nicolas Cage, and in high school, and all their friends and their really weird, kind of crazy, quirky things that they all do, and um, she remembers the future in this dream where she goes in the past, and she's trying to like give them things that will help them to, become rich and stuff in the future. Like she tries to give them songs, the Beatles songs, lyrics, and the idiot changes it. Here I changed it because I thought this would be better. She loves you, ooh ooh ooh. That cracking me up because it was just so bad, especially the way he did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
it's like you're not going to change the past. It is what it is. And again, just a delightful little kind of time travel, weird, quirky thing,
Yeah.
which I just enjoyed. I just enjoyed it a lot. I mean, there was a lot of funny stuff in it. And again, who knew that Coppola could direct comedy?
Yeah. Yeah.
But there was a lot of drama in it too.
Yeah. There's
Drama.
drama. There's yeah. And he didn't over sentimentalize it,
Yeah.
which I
Yeah.
like. I mean, this could have been really sappy, uh, but no, he had a very short. And of course, Kathleen Turner playing both herself, well, her older self and then her younger self,
Mm-hmm.
managed to do it so seamlessly. I mean, you believe
Yeah.
that she was suddenly 17 again or whatever, she was 16 or 17,
Yeah.
just her attitude and the way she acted young, you know. Um, and yeah, of course, Nicolas Cage, we've said this before, his he is Coppola's nephew.
Right.
So I thought that was interesting, and he's been in a couple of he hasn't been in a lot of his movies, but I thought it was interesting casting, and of course,
Yeah.
like you said, Jim Carrey, and yeah, this one, yeah, it almost made my top five, but
Yeah.
and
We flip flopped on that. The
we flip
Tucker
flopped
made
on that
your
one.
list, and I got bumped off my list, and
Yeah, yeah. But it is, like I said, it's probably number one of my. It is my number one honorable mentions, just because it is so close. That one and The Conversation. Yeah, they're excellent movies in their own right, and like I said, the top five. Yeah, it's just our personal opinion, personal
right,
favorites.
right.
Has really nothing to do with the quality of the movie. Uh, and
Well,
sometimes it
sometimes,
does.
sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
For
we've had
honorable
our
mentions,
differences about that.
yes. For honorable mentions, we've mentioned most of my honorable mentions. I just want to throw a nod to New York Stories, which he
Hmm,
is a little part of.
yeah.
Gardens of Stone has a wonderful performance, probably one of the best performances by James Earl Jones.
Hmm.
Nom nom, says the big bear. That voice.
Hmm.
Nom nom. Robin Williams has wonderful performance in Jack. though it's a kind of a depressing movie in its ending. But he plays a kid who ages. It's kind of a reverse Benjamin Button, where he ages
Yeah, he has that.
very fast.
Yeah, yeah. I
I didn't get to see the Rainmaker, although I found it. I didn't get time to see the Rainmaker, so I can't do on that. Cotton Club probably should be mentioned, although
that's
I
all my
never
that's all
really
my memory.
liked the movie all that much.
I
Yeah,
I
I don't
actually
know
did.
why I couldn't connect with that movie, but
Yeah, yeah.
I think
It's
I was just aware all the time that they were trying to make, a period piece. And
yeah,
again, I was just too aware of it for some reason. I'm not sure what they got wrong, but
yeah. I have to agree with that. That's why I got kind of bumped down to honorable mention. Um, I think the performances were great. Of course,
Mhm.
Gregory Hines is always a delight. Richard Gere, and it is a good look at that period and why the Cotton Club is so famous even today.
Mhm.
But yeah, yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's the period detail is not quite as sharp and as focused as like Tucker or some of the other movies that he's done
Right.
that uh, that are of a period. So not a terrible
I'm
movie,
seeing
but not.
I'm seeing that they're talking about the Rat Pack, or yeah, the Rat Pack with Sinatra and Dean Martin and Joey Bishop instead of the Brat Pack, which was
Yeah,
a teen actor. So I'm kind of getting caught off guard by that a little bit. Hey, baby.
yeah,
Ooh, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah,
it's
Joey Bishop was their comedy writer. Don
yeah.
Rickles is a friend of theirs. Yeah, a friend of theirs, but he wasn't really part of the Rat Pack.
No, he was sort of Rat Pack adjacent.
I'll tell you who was a surprise addition to the Rat Pack, and that was Johnny Carson.
Yeah, yeah.
He
Carson
actually,
was.
when Bishop couldn't show up one time for a performance that was actually videotaped, it was a benefit or something that was videotaped for TV. Carson stepped in and
Hmm.
was their ironically their straight man
Yeah,
to their chicanery. Um,
and
but
Shirley.
the reason they got their name was because they hung out with Humphrey Bogart, and they
Hmm.
took him home drunk early in the morning one time. And Bacall, it was like 3 or 4 in the morning. Bacall opened the door, and she goes, "Oh my God, you look like a bunch of drowned rats," and it stuck. They were the Rat Pack.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
guess Sinatra liked that.
yeah. Well, he was the chairman of the board, so he could make that decision. And I was going to say Shirley MacLaine is sort of the kind of a they adopted her as the honor as an honorary Rat Packer. Uh, so that was cool.
When they
Um,
did their revival show to kind of and a lot of people say Frank did it because he wanted to feel that love and camaraderie again,
mhm.
even though he said he was doing it for Dean Martin, who had lost his son in an accident.
Oh
And
yeah.
it didn't really bring Dean out of the funk. He ended up dropping out. They put since Judy Garland had performed with them early in the days, they put Liza Minnelli in the show.
Mm,
So she's
yeah.
kind of there. Judy Garland and Liza Minnelli are kind of honorary members as well.
Yeah. 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 But yeah, that was an interesting period as well. And and they I mentioned that documentary about the Brat Pack. They talk about that, about the differences between why the Rat Pack this was perfect for that period of time, uh, and then the Brat Pack is kind of a nod to that, but in a very different way. But anyway, um, so yeah,
We digress.
but we digress. Talking about the uh,
um, it's funny. Scorsese. We were talking about Scorsese as opposed to Coppola. He was going to make a Rat Pack movie,
that's right.
but they made the HBO movie, And he was going to cast Wesley Snipes as Sammy Davis Jr.
Sammy Davis Jr.
He was
Yeah.
going to cast Tom Hanks as Dean Martin. I can't remember who he was going to cast as Frank Sinatra. And he had Jim Carrey in line for Jerry Lewis. He was
Mhm.
going to be in it.
Yeah, which would have been perfect.
Even though, yeah. But unfortunately, yeah, they came out with the movie for HBO with Ray Liotta
Ray
as
Liotta
Frank
as
Sinatra.
Frank
And I shouldn't
Sinatra,
say
yeah.
unfortunately because it was a good movie.
Yeah, yeah.
Joe Mantegna is Dean Martin.
Well, I
But,
think
I like
one of the
Mantegna.
reasons,
He's a great
yeah.
actor. He's a lot of fun.
Well, I think they cast him because he could do the voice. He did a really
Yeah,
good job
yeah.
doing the voice. But yeah, he did. Now the standout in that movie is Don Cheadle as
Yeah, Cheadle is
Sammy
Sammy
Davis
Davis
Jr.
Jr.
Holy cow, he nailed that. I mean,
Yeah.
it was that to me was a great performance.
As in
I
oh my,
yeah,
I am so in love with you,
yeah,
Ben.
I didn't buy Leota as Sinatra. I just didn't.
Yeah,
Except the very opening scene where he's like, "Yeah, I miss my boys." Then,
yeah.
but the younger, I don't know. It just didn't.
He
Yes,
had blue eyes.
yeah. I think that's yes. We talked about Apocalypse Now right at the beginning.
Oh yeah, Apocalypse Now
What
is
was that?
both high on our lists.
Yeah,
High on the lists.
high on the list. So
Up there with the Godfathers.
yeah.
The
Oh,
first
what
two.
was that pic? What was that picture that just flashed up?
No,
Yeah.
no, never mind. Just keep
What the
moving.
hell was that?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Was that
Don't
two guys
worry
kissing in the
about
back of
it.
a car?
It was not
Don't.
two guys kissing. Stop.
Well, we were talking
Show it
about pride
again.
earlier, so hey, I like the word. Hey, don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Like we're gonna find a horse in a horse head in our beds later.
Ah!
Don't worry about it. See, the New York comes out of Renee.
me about this horse thing.
Man, the New York just came out of kind of
Yeah,
Renee there
it
for a
comes
minute.
out on certain times. It
It's
depends. It
okay.
depends on the moment. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
It is a little. It's a little Major Millie-ish.
it
Yeah.
was a little
Major
Major
Millie
Millie
was
there.
here.
Yeah, for a second. Yeah, don't worry about it. It's just just a couple of guys doing a thing. Oh my goodness.
I know sometimes I find myself talking like this. So we were talking about this yesterday or the day before. So okay, well that's it for me. That's
Okay,
my
well,
honorable mentions. And
yeah, me too. All right. So next,
go ahead.
yes, I was just gonna say. So next week
Mhm.
we have we're going to be talking about a wonderful actor with probably one of the most recognizable voices. And no, it's not James Earl Jones. Rather, it's Mr. Morgan Freeman. Will be
Morgan
our
Freeman.
subject.
Does this include movies where he just narrates?
I guess it can, but if anybody's going to narrate, I think we all want Morgan Freeman to narrate our lives because I remember the day when he first came in. Yeah.
Rory spent his formative years in Lake City, Florida.
That was kind of starting to veer into the Pepperidge Farm guy there.
Yes, it was. I do steer into the Pepperidge Farm guy when I do Morgan Freeman. I'll admit it.
It does have a little bit of that, yeah.
Pepperidge Farm.
Wait, yeah, we remember. Oh my goodness. So anyway, so what's coming up on
Zamora came to Shawshank. I wasn't too impressed with him at first.
Seemed like a total pussy to me. Anyway, so what's coming up on Cosmos Creative TV here?
Tomorrow on It's Casual, we'll be talking with actor comedian Peter Fogel. And on Thursday, in the Big Monster Briefing Room, we'll be doing Spookies.
Spookies.
The worst movie name for a horror movie of its ilk. Wow. Some really, really good graphic monster effects with a really, really terrible script, a really terrible movie. I just was really shocked. So anyway, we'll save it for the show.
Save it for the show. Yeah. So, all right. Miss Renee, anything else?
Yes,
coming up?
tonight at 10 p.m. It's the Carrie Harrison Files is back. And yes,
isn't that nice? I
yes.
didn't get the memo, but okay.
Well, you should know it's 10 o'clock. It's Monday. So there's it's going to be about I think, well, we'll find out. We'll find out what's going on. So we'll find out.
Yeah,
but it is 10
I don't
o'clock.
know what's going on. I mean, I know we got a show now, but
yeah, write it in the
this
chat.
is the first I've heard of it.
Well, that's what it is. It's Monday night, 10 p.m.
I thought he was off jet setting in Europe or something.
Well, he just got back from Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu.
Yeah, he just got back from Machu Picchu on Friday, I think. So yeah, he's back. He's back and better than ever. He's better than ever. I don't know that, but I'm assuming, because when you get back from Machu Picchu, I'm sure that that enhances a person greatly.
Your Picchu.
Yeah, it Machu's your Picchu. It
Hey,
your Picchu.
I'm so glad I went there.
So anyways, yes. What?
My Pichu is feeling macho, but that's
it brought a shine to my Pichu.
Yeah. As long as it's not Pikachu, then we're okay.
Machu Picchu.
There you go.
Why did we not get this episode?
Pikachu at Machu Picchu. That should be a movie.
Pikachu at Machu Picchu.
Hollywood, get on that. Get on that, somebody. All right. Well, there you go. So next week, Morgan Freeman. Tuesday, it's casual. Robert Vogel, you said? Fogel.
Peter Fogel.
Mm-hmm. Spookies on Big Monster Briefing Room. One of the forgotten classics of 80s horror, and you'll see why it's forgotten. And tonight, the Carrie Harrison file, which Mr. Penland just found out about.
I'm there.
So stay tuned for that. And thank you for joining us for another episode of Two Guys and a Gal Talking About Movies.
Yes, and spookies. Don't forget spookies. Spookers. All
That's
right.
a poster for Spookies.
Okay. Okay. Good night, everybody.
With the Muckmen.
Okay.
Thanks for watching this episode of Two Guys and Sometimes a Gal Talking About Movies. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell to get future episodes.